Okay, let's get into this. Our guest today is the founder of the largest outsourcing agency for credit repair disputing. And today he's going to share some of his top secret credit repair strategies. So please welcome to the podcast, credit repair millionaire, Bruce Politano. Hey, Bruce, welcome.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so excited you're here. And congratulations on all your success. How's life? Busy?
Life is great, man. I got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, so it's always busy.
Wow. Well, for people who don't know your story, just tell us a little bit. How did you get into credit repair and why?
Yeah. So a little over 10 years ago, I started working for a debt relief company here I'm from South Florida. So I started working for a debt relief company here, and they were like a debt settlement with attorneys involved. And when I started working at this company, I was one of 4 employees. And when I left there 2 years later, I was one of 400 employees. So it was a company that grew really, really fast. And when I left for a very specific reason. My role at the company when I left was I was responsible for hiring and training every single employee that came to the business, whether they're doing sales, customer service, or processing. I was responsible for those people, for training them and hiring them. And I came to find out that this company was just scamming every single one of their clients. They were taking money from their clients and not doing what they said they were doing. Right. Um, and I just, I had to have a heart to heart with myself. I'm responsible for hiring and training people to do this. So I found myself not being able to sleep right at night. So I quit. And one of the services that this company was supposed to offer along with their debt relief services was credit repair, right? And that's why I always identified myself. I liked it. I was intrigued by it. And when I decided to quit, I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with all this debt settlement crap. There's so much, hoops and laws and stuff that you got to jump through. I think I'm gonna focus just on the credit repair side. Let me give that a try. And I started my credit repair company. I just quit from the scam company and started my own business and never looked back.
Wow, amazing. And how long did it take before you were able to make a living at it?
I mean, it had to be right away. I had no plan B.
So you were all in.
When I decided to quit, when I found out what was going on, like where the clients were complaining and complaints were coming in and BBB complaints and all that, I literally had like a week or two before I decided, no, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. So I didn't have time. You know what? I'm going to stay like 2 more months, save some money. No, I decided I'm going to quit, and it was sink or swim at that point.
And I know you grew that business very fast. You were in the Millionaires Club very quickly. So about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2020, believe it or not. Yeah, yeah,
Time sort of changed during the pandemic.
it did for sure.
What's a year or 2 feels like 10 years. Anyways, and you built that up, and then you started this outsourcing business, and which is Dispute for Me.
Correct.
Can you explain how that works and how that can help a credit repair company who wants to, someone who's getting their credit repair business, how they're growing it and how that can help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started my own credit repair company, and I grew that, over, I want to say 5 or 6 years. Uh, and then I sold it. I didn't want to be involved so much on the credit repair side anymore because I found another service that I liked that was easier to perform that maybe we'll talk about later. But I sold that company with a little over 7,000 clients at the time. So, I mean, we were decent, right? And I sold the company and I started focusing just on, I was doing student loan relief instead. And I started to focus just on that, but I kept feeling the tug, come back, the credit repair. And she's like, come back, come back. So instead of, just coming back with my own credit repair company again, I decided that, you know what, I went through all the struggles that credit repair company owners go through. I know what it's like. So let me go in and back into the credit repair industry in a different capacity. And that's where Dispute for Me came up, where we provide pretty much all the services that a credit repair company needs to offer for their clients. We can offer those services for the company instead. And what that does is it completely frees up the credit repair company owner's time to focus on growing their business instead of being stuck in their business, right? Like that was the biggest problem that I had before I could afford employees. Man, it was 9 o'clock at night. I'm licking stamps trying to get, envelopes out the next day. Do the customer service for all these clients and the sales for all the leads still coming in, and then creating letters and printing. It was taking up so much of my time that my company plateaued. I couldn't grow it anymore. right? Because my time was all spent in licking stamps and not going out and building my affiliate base and what I was doing to get clients. So when I created Dispute for Me, it was for that purpose. Let me free up your time so that you can work on growing your business and being a business owner and not a stamp licker. That's what I like to say.
Awesome. So now you handle all their disputes, you do the customer service, you, and you even set up automations for them, right?
Yeah. So when we started with Dispute for Me, it was just the disputing, the processing, right? And what that looks like is, we log into your software, we create the letters, we print the letters, we mail the letters. 35 days later, we log in and we update all the results and we're done, right? We have no contact with the client. That's how we started. And from there, our clients started asking us, is there anything more that you can do? Can you help us with the phones? I was like, can we help you with the phones? And we found a way to do that. We started offering customer service. So now we handle customer service for credit repair companies. And then we started building automations. Because again, the main focus, the mission of this for me is to free up the owner's time, right? So anything that we can provide to free up your time, we can probably do that.
Wow. Now, how many companies have used your service?
I mean, to date, probably we got about 900 and something companies.
Wow, that's amazing. And how many dispute letters would you say you process on the average month?
On any given month, it's between 40 to 50,000 dispute letters.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, that's bureau letters, not counting, the furniture stuff that we do. And yeah, so we we stay pretty busy.
Wow. Well, I think I was right. You're probably doing more disputes than anyone I've ever had on the show. So I think it'd be really awesome if we can get into some credit disputing tips and advice for credit heroes who are out there watching and listening. Are you up for that?
Absolutely. That's why I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Well, for people just getting started in credit repair, yeah, let's start out with this. Can you please explain how the dispute process works and what happens from the time you drop off the envelope at the post office all the way until the time that the client receives a response?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is like the foundational question, a piece of knowledge that any credit repair company owner needs to know. Before you know how to dispute a collection account or bankruptcy, you need to know this process, right? Um, and it took me, a while to figure it out. And it was only after talking to major industry experts, people who worked for decades at the credit bureaus and even at FICO, that I came to figure out how this works, right? So this isn't something I just read online. This is something that I got from people that worked decades inside bureaus, right? So you create the dispute letter in Credit Repair Cloud, you print them, and then you put it in an envelope, right? And then what happens, right? You put the postage on there, and it goes to the mail system through USPS, right? USPS is then going to deliver that envelope to the credit bureaus. Okay, now we're the bureaus. The bureaus are receiving thousands of letters a day, thousands, right? When the mailman comes to the credit bureaus, they come with their multiple bins filled with envelopes, right? Somebody just takes those bins and now they're in the bureau letter. Now, think about certified mail. It's the same process. Nothing changes, right? The only difference is that now somebody's actually signing or there's proof that it got to the bureaus. So the only difference between a certified and a non-certified is that with the certified, you have proof that an envelope got delivered to that address, right? No proof of what's in the envelope, no proof of anything else other than an envelope got to the bureaus. And the bureaus, they're receiving those the same way they're receiving regular mail, right? The only difference is that if there's a return signature requested, somebody's signing, and it's even stamped, right? Like they stamp. It's not a physical person signing; it's a stamp that's on the green receipt that you get back. So now the letters are there. So, and the reason why I'm explaining this is because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I gotta send my letter certified," and man, I don't want to create like a commotion around it, but my personal experience, right? And I think it can count for something based on how much volume we do, is that there is no difference. Because as much as you can prove that something got delivered, you can't prove what got delivered.
Right. Because once the envelope is opened, they throw away the envelope, right?
Yeah,
So it's the same letter.
same thing. So if you're watching this, my personal advice is save your money on a certified mail. Like there's no need for that. You can't prove what was in there, and that's the whole point of it anyway, right? So now the bureaus have stacks of envelopes that they're got to go through, right? And what happens? What happens is those envelopes they get open right through a machine. I mean, think about it. You don't have people physically opening envelopes and getting paper cuts, Machines are opening that, right? And now someone is actually looking at that letter and they're skimming that letter just to try to figure out what kind of letter is this, right? Because it could be a letter with affidavits and with attorney stuff and whatever. So they have different categories for each type of letter that they get. They're not reading all the pages of the letters. They're just trying to get an idea. Okay, do I place it in this category or this category or this category, right? And they categorize those letters. Okay. Now, the biggest, I think, myth that I think we have in the credit repair space is that some letters don't get investigated. And that's not true. Every single letter that they get gets investigated because they have the duty to investigate it, right? The bureaus can assume that the letter did not come from the consumer, but they can't prove it. Therefore, they still have the obligation to investigate every letter, right? Listen, I live in Florida, right? But if I'm on vacation in California at Daniel's house and I decide to send something to the bureaus from California with my Florida address on it, they still have to investigate that. So the fact that, oh, the consumer lives in XYZ state and the postmark comes from XYZ state, it's crap. That's all, it doesn't matter. The bureaus investigate. And trust me, I went through all these questions with the bureau employees who, worked there for decades. And they say, no, Bruce, everything gets investigated. So how does investigation happen? The bureaus then have this letter, and they all go through what's called their eOscar system, right? Now, again, this is a big misconception. What is eOscar, right? eOscar is nothing more, nothing less than a system that the bureaus use to communicate with the data furnishers in an electronic fashion. That's what it is, right? Think of it like a telephone, right? Like I pick up my phone and I call Daniel's cell phone. The phone is what we're using to communicate with each other, right? Without me having to fly across the country to see you face to face. That's what eOscar is, right? eOscar is a system that the bureaus communicate with the furnishers, right? But what information is being communicated between the bureaus and the furnishers? That's what the dispute letter is about. So the dispute letter gets scanned into eOscar. Okay. And what happens is someone, an employee, now this is where actual humans get involved. Okay. They could be in India, in Costa Rica, maybe in the US, depending on the escalation of the letter. They're going to read that letter. And for every account that is disputed on that letter, they code that dispute. Okay. So it can get coded like somebody saying this is not my account. It's going to get coded like an O1, right? Or if they're, oh, I was never late, it's going to get coded the never late code, right? So that's what a physical person is doing. They're finding the disputes on the letter and they're entering a code for those disputes. That's what's being communicated via eOscar to the furnisher. Okay. Now, what happens on the furnisher side is a furnisher logs into their eOscar system and they see they have a dispute, right? And the dispute says, not mine. So now the furnisher has to do an investigation on their end to figure out, is this true? Is this really not theirs? Right. So what processes do they have to go through to figure that out is internal process that they have for themselves. They have to maybe look for a contract, or maybe they have to find a statement. They have to see if this person exists in my database. Right. And then they have to respond back with a code to the bureaus. Right. And it's either verified or updated or delete, right? Or wrong ACDV, which means this came to us, but it shouldn't have come to us. So the furnishers now respond to the bureaus, right? And what do the bureaus do? They update their records accordingly. If it's just verified, then they don't change anything. It's verified, right? If it's updated, then whatever new information the furnisher transmitted through eOscar to the bureau, they're going to update that on the consumer report, right? If it's deleted or no response from the furnisher, the bureaus delete, right? So if the furnishers don't respond, the bureaus delete. Or if the furnishers say delete, the bureaus delete, right? And then they package that up and they send that out back to the consumer, and that's how the investigation happens, right? So it's a pretty, and I just summarize it as much as I could because I don't want to take too much time. There's a lot more to it, but that's in a summary. That's what it is.
That's awesome. That's the best explanation I've ever heard of it. So awesome. Now, when sending the dispute letters, most people they start by sending them to the credit bureau. But when do you send letters to the furnisher? And what's the importance of sending the dispute letters direct to the furnisher?
All right. So in everything that I just explained of the process, right? If you get one takeaway from that, is that the bureaus are just the messenger. That's it. The bureaus are just the messenger. The bureaus are receiving this dispute, and what do they do with it? Nothing more, nothing less than forward it to the furnisher. And then they just sat there and they waited for the furnisher to respond back. And so they were just the middleman. They're just the messenger, right? Now, the bureaus do have an obligation under the FCRA to maintain accurate records. So it is their obligation, right? But they're getting their data from the furnishers, right? If the furnisher is sending them inaccurate data, they can't push the blame to the furnishers. They have to own that mistake as well because they are bound by the FCRA to report accurate data, right? But you can't go to the bureau and say you're reporting this inaccurate. I mean, you can. This isn't accurate. This is, the wrong balance or the wrong date open. Delete this immediately, right? You could do that, but the bureaus don't really have the power. The power is in the furnisher's hand because the bureaus are going to take that dispute. They're going to forward it to the furnisher. The furnisher is going to see that, and the furnisher is going to say, no, it's correct. Boom, verified. And the bureau's going to say, verified. They say it's correct. It's correct. The bureaus don't have the payment contract, the history of the account, all the statements. The bureaus don't have all that. The furnishers have that. So, in your question, how important is it to go to the furnisher? Man, it's do or die is the furnishers, right? Now, it can get expensive to go to the furnishers, right? Because you have three bureaus, right? How many furnishers could you have on a credit report, right? Chances are you're gonna have more than three different furnishers. Now, for those who don't know what furnishers are, they're the companies that report the data to the credit bureau. So Midland Funding is a furnisher, right? Bank of America is a furnisher, right? So all the collection agencies, the banks, the credit unions, they're all furnishers, and they're called furnishers. They're data furnishers because they furnish data to the bureaus, right? So the bureaus can only do so much, even though they're obligated to maintain accurate records. But now what you do is if you go directly to the furnisher, right, and the furnisher is verifying something to be true that is not true, man, they're the source, right? The buck stops in their desk. So now you really have some power to do something to try to get that account removed. Now, what I was saying is it can get expensive. So normally our process, we like to go to the bureaus first, get the low-hanging fruit removed, right? Oftentimes you're going to get a couple deletions by going just to the bureaus, but those things that, man, you've been disputing for months and months and months and they're just not coming out, go to the furnisher. Now you're highly going to increase your chance of that stuff being either updated or removed or fixed, right? So when should you go to the furnisher? It depends, right? Like how much do you charge your clients, right? If you're charging your clients enough to justify going to bureaus and furnishers every single round, then great, do that, right? But if you're kind of like stuck on time and money, then maybe wait till you get some of the low hanging fruit, meaning get some furnishers deleted first so that you only go to the furnishers with what's left of furnishers on a credit report, right? In our dispute process, that starts in round 4. So we do rounds 1, 2, and 3, bureaus only. And then rounds 4 and beyond, bureaus and furnishers. We never stop going to the bureaus.
Got it. That is great advice. Okay, since you're the student loan guy, I got to ask this. What is your secret tip to getting student loans removed more often than not?
All right. So, and this is something that it's proven by trial and error for multiple times, right? In credit repair, nothing is guaranteed. And I'm not one to sit here and say I'm guaranteed you're gonna get student loans deleted every time if you use the strategy. I'm not that guy. I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna tell you that. What I will tell you is that in my experience, more often than not, when done this way, we see some sort of better success rate. All right. Now, this works for federal student loan debt only. Okay. Only for federal student loan debt. If it's a private student loan debt, this strategy doesn't apply. Okay. So that's the disclaimer there. When you dispute a student loan, it's taken the same way as any other account, right? But with student loans, there's programs that the Department of Education offers to borrowers of federal student loan debt. Programs that include like consolidation of the loans and lowering monthly payments with income-driven plans and different forgiveness programs and things like that. So, and that's actually what I got into when I sold my credit repair company. So, I mean, I've still been doing this, for the last 5 years, and I never stopped. What happens is when you consolidate a federal student loan debt, what happens is when you look at a credit report, you never see one student loan account, right? Like you're going to see 4, 5, 8, 10 different, Navients or Great Lakes or Fed loans. Rarely you see one, right? You're always going to see multiple of them. And why is that? For every semester that you go to school, the Department of Education disburses a loan to pay for that semester. And on the credit report, that's what it looks like, right? So if I see 10 accounts, I know that guy went to school for 10 semesters because the disbursement that the Department of Education gives to the student is per semester. So for every semester, you got to pay for classes, books, blah, blah, blah. That's why there's multiple loans on a report, right? When they graduate or they're no longer in school full time for 6 months, they have to start paying those loans back. And it's one payment for all of the disbursements, right? On the credit report, it looks like you have six different loans, but really it's one payment that's going to cover the entire debt. And if you miss that one payment, what happens to all six loans on the report? They all show with the missed payment.
Oh, wow, that really sucks.
It's terrible, right? Now, the Department of Education gives you a 90-day cushion. So, in order for it to show late, you have to be 90 days past due or more. So, they won't report you 30 or 60 days late. They will only report you once you go 90 days late, right? So, I mean, it's a little bit better. They're the only furnishers that will do that. Everybody else, you're 30 days late, boom, you're dinged, right? So, federal student loan debt, you will never see a 30 or a 60-day late payment on a federal student loan debt on a credit report. It'll always be okay, 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 90 days late, right? And people use that as a dispute reason. How is it that I'm, on time in March and then in April I'm 90 days late, right? But that's why they didn't report you're late, right? They reported you 90 days late when you were 90 days late. So what does a consolidation do? The consolidation takes those six loans. I'm using six as an example, obviously. They take those six loans and the Department of Education pays them all off, right? To the servicer. So Navient, Fed Loans, Great Lakes, Mohila, Sally Mae, these are all servicers of the Department of Education loans, right? Servicers, think of them like the bank that is collecting the debt. So the Department of Education says, you know what? Here, Fed Loans, I'm gonna pay you off these six loans, okay? And then the Department of Education reissues one brand new loan in a total amount of the six loans that they had before back to the client, back to the borrower, right? So on the borrower's credit report, what does that look like? All six loans, the old ones, are paid in full and closed, right? It doesn't say that it was paid in full through consolidation. Like it reports exactly like it would as if the client had mailed them a check to pay them all off in full. It's exactly how it's going to report. So all those old loans are now paid and closed, right? That's a benefit of itself, right? Like now it looks like, man, you borrowed a bunch of money and you paid a bunch of money back, right? It looks good on you. And one loan is reissued back to the student in the form of one account in the total debt amount, right? So you had $30,000 between six loans. Now you still have $30,000 in the form of one loan, right? And that's what happened. So now those six loans, if you're disputing them, they're old loans, it's probably because there's some sort of negative aspect to them, probably a payment history problem, right? So what happens is while those loans are open and they have a balance, every single month they get reported because it's an open account. It has a balance. Every single month, the furnisher, right, there is going to report to the bureaus what the account information is, right? But what happens once they're closed and paid? What reports?
What does happen?
Nothing, right? There's nothing to report. The account is paid off. You pay off your auto loan. You trade in your car. Or is the lender still reporting that loan to the reports? It's not, right? So it's the student loans, the same thing. Those old loans are all paid and closed, meaning they're no longer reporting every single month anymore. You have one brand new account. Now is the time to dispute those old loans because the chances of the furnishers even responding to the dispute are very slim. And that's why they come off. They're closed, they're paid. They're not going to go back and dig old graves to try to find stuff to verify information. They're just going to say, well, delete. We don't care.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't happen every time. Remember what I said in the beginning. I'm not saying it happens every single time, but more often than not, if you're patient enough to go through that process of first consolidating your client's loans, waiting for the loans to report as paid and the new loan to report, and now you hit them, then your chances are increased for sure.
I love that. That's real gold. Now, what's your strategy for removing collections?
All right. So let's talk about collections for a second. What is a collection, right? It could be one of two things. One, your debt defaults with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, whoever, with the original creditor where you incurred the debt originally. Normally, what happens is after about 180 days, the debt gets charged off, right? And what is a charge off? It's nothing more, nothing less than an accounting term, right? It means they're writing the debt off as a loss, right? And at that point, the original creditor, let's say Chase, they have an option to sell the debt to a collection company or to hire a collection company to collect on the debt, right? There's a difference. When they sell off the debt, they're selling off all the rights to that debt. They no longer owe it. Midland Funding now owns it. When they hire a collection company, still their debt. The collection company is just hired to collect the debt, right? Either way, now you have a collection on your credit report for the Chase credit card, right? It'll say Chase charge off balance zero, hopefully, right? If they sold the debt, and then Midland Funding original creditor Chase balance $5,000. That's how it shows up, right? All right. So when collection companies buy debt, they buy them in bulk, right? They go to Chase and they say, "Hey, what you got for me? You got anything to sell?" And Chase is gonna be like, they're gonna bundle all of these defaulted debts, total of $100,000. And Midland Fund is gonna say, "Cool, I'll give you 15 grand for all of that." Right? And Chase will be like, do I take zero, which I'm getting from the clients, or do I take the 15 grand that I'm getting offered from Midland Funding? Right. So now Midland Funding purchases all these debts from Chase. They own the rights to them now. It's their debt they're gonna collect. Right. So that's very important because Midland Funding just purchased a bunch of debt from Chase. But all they purchased, Daniel, was what? Name, email, phone number, and debt amount. Do you think that Chase sent documents and documents and documents from every single one of those debts that they sold to Midland Funding over to Midland Funding?
They don't?
They don't.
Wow.
They don't. They just sell the consumer's information. Now Midland Funding goes to collect it. So that's how it works. Now, when you collection companies, they have to first validate a debt before they're able to collect it. And there's something called a dunning period, right? Where the collection company needs to notify the consumer that they now own this debt and they're going to come collect it, right? And the consumer has 30 days from that dunning period to request validation of that debt from the collection company, right? Before the collection company can actually start pursuing the debt in a legal manner, right? So, my strategy for collections is very simple. A collection company cannot collect a debt they have not validated to the consumer, correct? Okay. So what we do is we will send a debt validation request to the collection company, not to the bureaus. Bureaus don't validate anything. Collection companies validate, right? Original creditors, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they don't validate anything. They verify things, right? So there's a difference between validation. It's a term, they're not interchangeable. Validation is under FDCPA for collection companies, right? So now I've sent a debt validation letter to Midland Funding, and I'm going to wait 3 to 5 days. And then I'm going to send a dispute to the credit bureau for that same account. Okay. Now, if the collection company verifies the debt with the bureau before they validate the debt to the consumer, that's considered an attempt to collect the debt. If the collection company verifies debt information with the bureaus, that's considered an attempt to collect the debt because they're verifying a debt to the bureaus, right? And they cannot collect the debt that they have not validated yet, right? So why do we send a letter to the collection company first? Because we want to make sure that they receive our notice of validation, request of validation first before the bureaus even get our dispute. Because now we know they received our validation request before they received the verification request from the bureau. And if they verify the debt to the bureau before they validate the debt to the consumer, that's an FDCPA violation.
Wow.
Right? Can you use FDCPA violations as leverage to potentially get accounts removed? Absolutely. Right? And if you work with an attorney, the attorneys will eat that up all day. All day. They'll love that. Right? So now you're not only potentially getting the accounts removed, you're potentially even getting money back for your consumer if your company's partnered with an attorney. So that's our strategy when it comes to collections. We always send a validation letter to the collection agency first, wait a few days, then send a regular dispute to the bureaus. And if the collection company actually verifies the debt without validating to the consumer, which happens more often than not, then you really got something. You got some leverage now. Right? There's a difference when you file a BBB complaint or a CFPB complaint with leverage versus just, they didn't respond to my dispute. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have more leverage, you have more power. So that's the name of the game, right? You want more power on your side to fight them with than not. And that's why every strategy that we have is focused around trying to get as much power on the consumer side as we can to push against the collection agencies and the bureaus to get stuff removed.
Got it. That's amazing. Now, you mentioned FCRA attorneys. Do you recommend that each credit repair business have a relationship with a FCRA attorney?
Absolutely, and it's easier than you think to do that. I mean, there's a lot of industry attorneys that are around that have been doing this for a very long time, and they love to work with credit repair companies, right? And just like those accident attorneys, like you don't pay them unless they win, right? They get paid from the lawsuit settlement, just like your client will get paid potentially, right? And the ultimate goal is to try to get the account removed. So if you're really trying to do everything in your power to help the consumer get that removed, you're not really doing everything in your power until you're partnered with an attorney to try to get that stuff off.
Got it. Okay, how about what is your mortgage and foreclosure strategy?
All right. So with mortgage and foreclosure, it's a little bit different. Um, let's go back to laws, right? Because the only reason credit repair works is because of the consumer protection laws that are in place, right? Or else it wouldn't work. Credit repair wouldn't exist. Bureaus don't just do things because you motivated them to. No, it's because there's leverage, right? So the only way you get leverage against the bureaus and the furnishers is if you can catch them doing something they shouldn't be doing, right? So let's talk about mortgages. So there's a law in the real estate world called RESPA, right, which is the Real Estate Settlements Procedures Act, and there's a bunch of different things in there that pertains to realtors and to lenders and to all that. But there's something that's really powerful, something called a qualified written request or QWR. Okay, and what that is a consumer can send what's called a qualified written request letter to the original creditor who the mortgage was with. Okay. And what that qualified written request is, it's requesting all documentation regarding that real estate loan. Everything. Not just the closing document. You ever closed on a house? If you bought a house, you know what it's like, right?
Oh, yeah, you're signing like through a phone book. It's a giant stack.
So just the starting documents of a real estate loan is like this, right? Now imagine every single billing statement for that account, right? The older you've had that mortgage for, the more statements you're gonna have, right? Then if the bank says I owe them $3,000 today, and I've had this account for let's say 3 years, the only way that I know that the $3,000 balance on the current statement is correct is if I know what was the previous statement and the previous and the previous and the previous all the way to inception. Because what if there was a math error in any one of those statements? Then is my last statement with the $3,000 balance correct? It's not, right? So that's what the qualified written request is. You're requesting all documents regarding that account directly to the mortgage bank, the lender who will lend the mortgage, right? And what are they going to do? Do you think they're going to go into their filing cabinet, open up that drawer like the Bruce Almighty movie, right? And then get all those documents and scan them all or make a copy? Chances are they're not going to do that, right? So because of what is easier for me to do is delete as opposed to send you all this information, they just delete or they will ignore you. They won't respond, which is great because now, hey, you didn't respond. Hey, you didn't respond. Hey, you didn't respond. CFPB complaint. Hey, I've been requesting, you haven't responded. And if once they get something from the CFPB, they're probably going to respond, right? And now, do you think they still want to go into their big filing cabinet and get everything, or you think they're just going to remove the account?
They're just gonna remove it, right?
So the name of the game is leverage, right? That's the name of the game. Who has the most leverage? Do the banks have the most leverage, or are you finding a way to get more leverage against them? That's the name of the game.
Amazing. Okay, what are your secrets to removing late payments from a credit report?
So late payments are very tricky, right? Late payments are tricky, and you have to be careful. Let's talk about late payments when it comes to how much does it impact you, right? Speaking of a mortgage account, right? If you're trying to um, get a mortgage, for example, a 30-day late payment will affect your credit score for 2 years. Okay. A 60-day late payment will affect your score for 5 years. A 90-day late payment or longer is a key derogatory item. It's going to affect your score for 7 years. Okay. Now, you got a late payment on a credit report that happened 16 months ago, 18 months ago. It's getting to that 24-month range, right? Let it go. My personal opinion. In a couple more months, it's not even going to be impacting the score anymore. And the impact, and it's gradual, right? It's going to ding you hard when it's first 30 days late. But once it's been 3 months that 30-day late happened, or 6 months that a 30-day late happened, or a year that a 30-day late happened, it starts losing its impact on the score. It starts impacting less and less and less, up to where in 24 months it's no longer even impacting it at all. So first you have to consider, is it worth even disputing in the first place, right? Um, if it is, right? If it is, how many late payments are there, right? If you're talking about one or two late payments on an account they've had for 3 years or 5 years, they've never been late before, your chances of getting a goodwill adjustment are high. And I've had that happen personally on mine. I had a bad motorcycle accident a couple of years ago. I was in the hospital for 11 days. God knows what I went through. And I didn't make a payment on one of my account, on my American Express card, right? I was in a hospital. Couldn't figure it out, right? Couldn't do it. I looked at my credit report and man, crap, I forgot the American Express payment, right? Dude, I called up American Express, got to speak with whoever the highest supervisor was that I could, explain my situation. The next month, the late payment was gone, right? So, based on the relationship that you've had with your lender, right, with the furnisher, are you willing to do a goodwill adjustment on this? Right? I'll always start there, right? If it's just one or two late payments on a really aged account. And chances are they're going to work with you, they will do the adjustment. All right. Now, you're talking about you got a whole bunch of 60 and 90-day lates and all that, and you're worried about getting the whole account removed because it's still open, but you have all of these late payments. I wouldn't even go after the late payments. I'll go after the entire trade line and try to get the trade line removed, because the chance of you removing multiple late payments and keeping the account, I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it, right? So at that point, it's more advantageous to try to get the whole thing removed than to try to fix 8 different late payments on an account, especially if they're all key derogatory payments, right? So I go, if it's one or two late payments, it's a 30-day late and or a 30-60, and then you've never been late before, obviously something happened. Write a letter, man, I got sick or I lost my job or whatever it is. We've had such a great relationship otherwise. Please, 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 are you willing to, forgive this late payment, do a goodwill adjustment? Here's what I've done on my side to make sure this never happens again. I've enrolled in auto pay, I've whatever. Send a letter like that, and chances are the banks will adjust. Now, your account has like bird poop all over it, chances are you just try to get the whole account removed instead,
Got it. Especially if the account is closed, right? Because then they're not going to work with you.
especially if the account is closed. Yeah, absolutely.
How about your killer strategy to get rid of repossessions?
All right. So repos are again different monster, right? It all goes back to laws. And I'll tell you, if you are spending your time not understanding and learning how credit repair works, you're spending your time doing the wrong things, right? The service that you're getting paid for is to try to remove inaccurate, unverifiable, obsolete information from a credit report, right? If it's accurate and verifiable and not obsolete, it's not going to come off, right? So that's why you can't guarantee anything, because you don't know if it's going to be proven to be accurate and it's going to be verifiable, right? So you don't know that until you start the process. So with repossessions, it's the same thing. What laws are around the repossessions, right? You got to study those, and there's different loopholes that you can get through. And when it comes to repossessions, what we like to do is first we ask how old, right? We find out how old the repossession is. If it just happened and the car was financed, right? Not leased, but financed, and they had gap insurance, right? Did they get their gap insurance money back after the repo, right? And if not, then now you're already starting to see some inaccuracies on the account itself, right? This used to work tremendously well a few years ago with Santander Bank, you know. But then there's other laws that are regarding contracts with auto loans, right? And you got to read them and you got to know them, and it's going to be different for every single account. But my strategy is very simple. I go to the bureaus first, right? I'll hit them 3 times. The bureaus are just sending my request over to the furnishers anyway, right? Then I'll find something. Oftentimes you'll find some loans, auto loans or leases. They have to be multiples of 6. Always. Your loan will always be able to be divided by 6, meaning it's 12-month loan, 24, 30, 36, 72, 84, right? 66. If you see a 67 under the term for the loan, how's that? All loans are dividable by 6, right? Or so that's a violation there, right? Now, remember, you're sending all this stuff to the bureaus. The bureaus are sending all this stuff to the lender. The lender is verifying everything. When you get the lender to verify something that you know is not right, that's your leverage, right? That's your leverage. So that's what we do. We want them to verify it, right? Like if you're not deleting it, then I want you to verify it, right? I want to get that letter back that says verified because then I can take that letter from the bureaus that said verified, not once, not twice, but 3 times, right? And I can write a letter now to the lender. And I can say, you verified not only once or twice, but 3 times that XYZ is ABC, right? It's correct. It's clearly not because blah, 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 blah. You're reporting inaccurate information on my credit report. You're violating my consumer rights under the FCRA. I demand you remove this damaging information from my credit report immediately, right? And leverage. It's all about leverage. Find what's wrong on the account. Try to get the bureaus to verify wrong information. So now you have even more leverage when you go directly to the furnisher and you rub that all over their face. You say, you did this.
That's awesome.
You messed up. Get it off my report now, or I may have to find some legal help against you. Right? You never say I'm gonna sue you. I may have to look at my options with an attorney.
I like that.
You have that language in your letters to the furnishers and you scare them.
Awesome. Well, we're on a roll here. Okay. How do you wipe out inquiries from a credit report?
So I have a love-hate relationship with inquiries and with what people say about inquiries. Um, I personally don't care for inquiries, and I'll tell you why. We all know inquiries are 10% of your credit score, right? And from a 300 to an 850, that's, 550 points you get to play with. So that's a potential 55 points that you can gain or lose on inquiries alone, right? But that's assuming that you got all of your inquiries today. Because just like late payments, over time, they lose their weight. Okay. And a big misconception when people dispute inquiries, number one rule is never dispute an inquiry tied to an open account. Never do that. Okay. We made a mistake actually recently with one of our clients and we did that. Their credit card, the oldest account that they had on our credit report, got shut down because we disputed an inquiry with an open account. Never do that, right? We're humans, we all make mistakes, so it happened. So I know that happens when you dispute inquiries tied to open accounts, you run the risk of that account getting shut down, right? Because what is an inquiry? An inquiry, 100 times out of 100 times, they actually happen because unlike anything else on the credit report, inquiries are placed on the report by the bureaus themselves. They're not reported to them by a furnisher. How does that work? When you apply for a credit card with Chase, before Chase approves or denies you, what do? They go to the credit bureau and they say, hey, Equifax, let me see a copy of Bruce's credit report. At that point, before Equifax releases the report to Chase, Equifax is going to notate on their own records, Chase has requested a copy of Bruce's credit report, meaning that's the inquiry. So the bureaus put the inquiries on the report themselves. They're not reported to them by the bank. So someone requested that information, or the bureaus wouldn't have put it on there, right? So that's number one. 9 times out of 10, the consumer did it, unless their identity was stolen, right? So first, let's understand how the inquiries get on a report in the first place. The bureaus place them there. They're not reported to them by the furnisher. That's the first thing. The second thing, when people have a ton of inquiries on their credit report, more often than not, it's because of a car loan or a mortgage, right? And we all know you go to the dealership, they ding your credit 300 times. I'm being, facetious, 10, 12 times, whatever. And because they're shopping around, trying to get you the best rate for your brand new car, right? But what happens is, according to FICO and FICO's algorithm, within a 30 to 45-day period, all inquiries tied to auto loans will only count as one. It'll only ding you once. So if I go here to Honda and I apply for a car there, and Honda runs my credit and tries to approve me with 6 different banks today, and I was like, man, I got to think on this. And I walk across the street to Toyota, and Toyota does the same thing. And then 2 weeks later, man, I'm going to drive a Benz. I go to Mercedes, and they ding my credit. The only inquiry that's hurting me is the first one from Honda. within that 30-day period, right? So even though you have multiple inquiries on your credit report, it's only hurting your score once because you're not trying to buy six different cars. You're trying to buy one car. You're shopping around for a loan. So you're not going to get penalized as if you had applied for six different credit cards, right? Same is true for mortgages, right? Man, I'm going to apply for a mortgage with this lender. They run my credit. I didn't like what they gave me. They gave me a 4% rate and it's 2022. No, I'm going to go over there. I got the 2.5 rate with them. Only the first one counts within a 30-day period towards hurting the score, right? So that's the next thing to understand. Is like, man, inquiries only stay on the report for 2 years. And after 12 months, they don't even impact the score anymore. So how old is the inquiry? If it's close to 12 months or older than 12 months, I don't care if you remove it, the score isn't changing, right? And they come off after 24 months. So now people will dispute all the inquiries they did not get approved for, right? So they bought the Honda and then they disputed all the other inquiries. That's great and dandy, but it's not really doing much to the consumer, right? And even when you apply for a mortgage, they are going to ask you, man, you have a lot of inquiries on your credit report. Here's a piece of paper, and you got to tell me what each one of those inquiries are for. They're not saying denied because you have too many inquiries when it comes to a mortgage, right? Now, for a credit card, right? It's the same thing. If you apply for a credit card with Chase today, and then you apply for a credit card with Bank of America tomorrow, and then you go with one Wells Fargo tomorrow as well, those are all separate inquiries because you apply for three different accounts, right? So when people are denied for too many inquiries on their credit report, the banks are not denying them because of too many inquiries due to auto loan accounts or mortgage accounts. It's because you've been applying for credit very often recently, right? And that makes you risky. Like, why are you trying to borrow money so much? Right? Maybe I don't want to lend you anything, right? So let's say you are going to dispute the inquiry. Then again, FCRA says everything on the credit report has to be accurate, verifiable, and timely, right? So with anything, I'm not saying it's not mine. Can you verify it's mine? Right? We never dispute not mine. That's just unethical, right? We're never going to do that unless it really isn't. Unless the consumer's like, I have no idea what this is. This is not mine, right? Then I'll say, okay, are you willing to file affidavit with the FTC, with the government agency? If you're lying, you're going to get in trouble. Are you willing to file that? Are you even willing to go file a police report because somebody stole your identity? If this isn't you, somebody did it, right? And then that's how you know if they're lying or not. Because if they're just saying not mine because they know it could work and they're not willing to do all the other stuff, then you know they're probably not going to do it. But anyways, then you'd say, hey, please verify that you have permissible purpose from me to pull my credit. Because that's it, right? On the FCRA, the lenders need to have permissible purpose to pull your credit, meaning you got to have authorized them. Do you have my credit application on file? I'd like to see that because I don't remember. I don't remember the day I did that, right? I bought a car 2 months ago. Can I tell you the date that I applied for the car? No. So I'm not lying. I don't remember when I applied for this. Please send me my original credit application. If you can't prove permissible purpose, you're not allowed to report this. Remove from my credit report. There's a legal and ethical way to do things without lying, without calling the bureaus and doing this new little scheme. Oh, I didn't authorize this delete. Oh, but as long as you get the right person on the phone, it's going to work. And then you're doing that. You could do that, but why? Why be shady if you can do it the right way? Right? So it's all about know your stuff, and there's no reason for you to want to do things in an unethical or illegal way. Right? Ask for the permissible purpose. Ask for the documents. They have to provide it. And if they can't provide it, then they're not allowed to report it. And now you have leverage.
That is really good advice. Okay, here's the big one. People always want to know, what is your secret to permanently deleting a bankruptcy or other public records from a credit report?
So there's a strategy that has been working for many years, and it's starting to phase out. Right, it's starting to phase out. I'm not saying it doesn't work anymore; it still does, but the bureau's caught on to it. Right, I mean, there's so many companies now using a strategy that they know what's happening, but it doesn't matter because it's still a powerful strategy. Right, you go when you look at a credit report, the bureau says the furnisher of the data is the courthouse, right? When you look at the credit report, it says US bankruptcy court XYZ as the furnisher. You go down to the creditors information where you have everybody's addresses, they have the bankruptcy court information there, right? So the bureaus are saying the furnisher of this data is the courthouse. Okay. So then what do? We send a letter to the courthouse and we say, hey, Do you verify or report information to the credit reporting agencies? Reason why I'm asking, I see it on my credit report and they're telling me you told them that you're reporting this information to them. Please let me know if you do this or not, right? And then the way we do it is we send them another little piece of paper with the letter that says a little box that says, yes, we verify information with the bureaus, or no, we don't verify information with the bureau. And there's lines for them to write explanations or whatever. And then we also include a return envelope as well, right, with the consumer's address and name. So all they have to do is put the response in there and put it in the mail. It's already pre-stamped and everything. That's how we do it. And what happens is when the court replies, they reply, no, we don't report anything or verify anything with credit reporting agencies, right? Now you take that and you send that to the bureau and you say, like, please explain. You're saying they do. They're saying they don't. Who do I believe? You're obviously telling me a load of crap. Delete this from my credit report immediately because I have proof that you're reporting inaccurate information on my credit report. The wrong furniture, that's damaging. You're telling me I owe the wrong people money, right? So that strategy seems to work. And when the court replies, a lot of times the court may not reply the first time. I have to have hit them a couple months before they finally reply. Right? Some courts now have like a template already that they send because I see it like, man, I'm starting to get the same exact letters from the courthouses saying they don't reply to the, or furnish information to the bureaus. Great, take that, put it in a dispute letter to the bureau, and fire it off. Right now you have leverage. Right, if the bureaus continue to verify it, get your little leverage. Go to the CFPB website and file a freaking complaint with your leverage. Right, because they may play around with you. They're not going to play around with the CFPB.
That is awesome.
Yeah. By the way, they get their information from Pacer, which is a public record database. That's where they're really getting the information for.
Does it help to freeze LexisNexis ahead of time or any of that kind of stuff?
It can. I mean, we don't. But I don't know how much more effective it would be if you did it. Because we've never had to do it that way, But some people do it and they swear by it, and I'm sure it works. Even, I'm sure it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Absolutely.
If I can do it with less effort, then I'm going to do it with less effort. But if it takes that, then we'll do that, right?
Awesome. Okay, I wanna talk about student loans. Now, I understand you're earning over $100,000 a month by offering student loan relief services, and now you're teaching other credit repair companies to do the same. What are student loan relief services, and how can credit repair companies add this to their services?
Yeah. So how did I get into this? Remember when I sold my really successful credit repair company, it was to do this. So I had a huge motivating factor to do this. The programs that the Department of Education offers to borrowers, like the consolidation programs, the income driven repayment programs, the forgiveness programs, the rehabilitation of defaulted loans, those are all things that the consumer can do and get in and do for themselves, just like fixing their credit, right? Just like filing their taxes. So when I explain the student loan relief services, I like comparing them to taxes. I can go to TurboTax and I can file my own taxes, right? The consumer can go on the studentaid.gov website and consolidate their own loans. They can, right? It's not difficult. It takes us less than 15 minutes to do, right? So it's not hard if you know what you're doing, right? Or I can take my taxes to a CPA who I paid thousands of dollars for to do it, but they save me so much more money because they know the loopholes, the ins and outs of how to do things better than I do because they do this for a living. So, do I trust them to file my taxes more than I trust myself? Absolutely. Right. So, the student loan service is the same thing. Like you learn everything about all of the programs that the Department of Education offers, the ins, the outs, how to qualify, how do you not qualify, what are the loopholes, and then you use that knowledge to help your client, and you do it for them, right? Just like an accountant or a CPA files your taxes on your behalf with the IRS, you, on your client's behalf, deal with the Department of Education to help them with their student loan debt. So what we did was, at first, we had an affiliate program with credit repair companies. Hey, you have clients who need help with their student loans, send them my way. I'll send you $100 for every single one. Worked tremendously for years. But then it got to a point where we were so busy and we're getting so many referrals, we couldn't handle them anymore, right? Which was a pretty good problem to have, but it's our reputation, right? So I'm like, man, instead of saying, no, stop referring them to me, I was like, let me teach you how to do this yourself and stop referring them to me. Keep the money yourself. Instead of you making $100 as a referral fee, I'm charging your client $699, $700. I'll happily pay you 100 if I'm making 700, right? How about you make the 700? Let me show you how to do it, right? So I created this whole course. It's like as detailed, like a monkey can sit in front of a computer and after they're done, they can go online and do this, right? And know how to help people with their student loans. And I created the course as a way to still help the credit repair business owners be able to help their clients with their student loans without having to keep referring them to me, right? And what that did is a lot of people took advantage of that. They took the course and they're doing that themselves. And some people decide, you know what? No, I still want to refer them to you. So it's fine. We still get enough referrals, but not too much where we can't handle them. So the course just teaches you, think of like a credit hero challenge, but for student loans.
That's awesome.
It teaches you from A to Z what the services are, how they work, who qualifies, how to process, how to submit, how to follow up. Literally takes you by the hand and walks you from A to Z. How do you even get the leads? How do you enroll the client? How do you perform the services? How you get paid? Everything. So that we don't even have to be involved anymore. You just take the course and you know how to do it yourself.
Amazing. And what's the link for that?
studentloancompanion.com/course.
Got it.
If you go to just the studentloancompanion.com, you can register for a webinar where I just explain pretty much what the services are, but I don't teach you how to do it. If you want to learn how to do it, you got to get the course. But if you want to know what they are, just watch the recording of the webinar, and you'll know exactly what it is. But if you're for the course, it's studentloancompanion.com/course.
Got it. And the webinar is studentloancompanion.com. Okay. I got a student loan question.
Okay.
When you default on a student loan, do they start garnishing your wages?
They can. Federal student loan debt. Anything that we're talking about student loans here today is going to be relating federal student loan debt. What is a default? When you miss 270 consecutive days worth of payments or 9 months, right? Once you go 9 months past due, your loan goes into default status. And what happens when your loan goes into default status is the Department of Education takes them away from the servicer, Fed Loans, Navient, Sallie Mae, whoever, and assigns them to a collection agency to service them. They have an internal collection agency called debt management, but they can also outsource it to another collection company. Okay. Now that that collection company is servicing the debt, they can garnish 15 and 25% of every single paycheck that you get because of your defaulted loans. But it doesn't stop there. They can also take your taxes. So if you have an income tax refund coming back to you, no, you don't. It's going to go all to the servicer, the student loan debt, to pay out what you still owe. So if you have $3,000 back coming to you from your income tax, but you owe $5,000 of defaulted student loans, that money's not even going to go to your account. It's going to go from the IRS to the Department of Education, right? They're probably like next door to each other in the department, in the building, right? So it's going to go there to go towards the 5,000 that you owe, and that's the terrible thing about student loans. Like they will follow you to the grave until you pay them off.
Is there a way to stop the wage garnishments?
Yes. So there is. There's two ways to stop the wage garnishment. Well, actually, there's one way to stop the wage garnishment. You got to go through a rehab program. Okay. The rehab program is a program that is set up directly with a collection agency where you're asking them to rehabilitate your loans. And what that looks like is they're going to look at your living expenses. They're going to look at your income. They're going to look at your family size, and they're going to determine what is an affordable payment that you can make, right? It can be as low as $5 a month. Okay. So let's assume you get the $5 payment. For the next 9 months, you have to make that $5 payment on time. The whole point of the rehab program is to prove to the Department of Education that you can make on time payments again that are affordable, right? Because why did you default? Because you couldn't make on time payments. So now you want to rehabilitate it. Can you prove that you can make on time payments? That's what the rehab program is, right? Once you make your fifth out of the 9 payments that you have to make, the wage garnishment can be lifted. So they're not going to lift the wage garnishment until you made at least 5 payments, right? You still have to make the remaining payments to complete 9 payments to get the loans out of default. But the wage garnishment will stop after the 5th payment.
Got it. Wow. You're like a walking encyclopedia of all this stuff. It's amazing. Like a whole hour has flown by so fast. What's your advice to someone starting out with a brand new credit repair business?
I have 2. Okay, that just come to mind right away. And you can pick and choose what you want from this.
Okay.
You have to determine, what do you want more? Okay. Do you want more to be an expert in credit repair and know all the ins and outs and how to get all the laws and study everything and be an expert in how to get things removed? Or do you want to be an expert business owner that grows and scales a successful company? Because you can't do both well. You have to choose one, right? No right or wrong answer. There is no right or wrong answer. It's up to you, right? If I want to know exactly what I'm doing, I want to perfect that craft, and I'm going to find a way to really monetize that, right? But if I want to find a way to really scale my business and grow my business, every time, every second that I spend reading these laws, I'm not spending growing my business. So make a choice. Do you want to be the expert and know all the ins and outs, or do you want to really grow and scale your business to whatever revenue you want to achieve? You got to choose one.
That's good advice. That's really, really good advice. Okay, I want to switch gears real quick. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, rapid fire.
Oh boy.
Answer with the first thing that pops into your head, okay?
All right.
What's the most important lesson you've learned as a business owner?
Be ethical.
Awesome. What's your biggest superpower in business?
I think transparency. People value that, right? If you're transparent, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. If they don't know, like, and trust me, then I'm only in business for a short while. It's not going to last.
What does business ownership mean to you?
Freedom.
Mm. What drives and motivates you?
My family.
And what is your definition of success?
Freedom.
Me too. That is awesome. Bruce, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming on here. Thanks for being such a friend to Credit Repair Cloud. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been amazing. And how can people learn more about your outsourcing? Where do they go?
They can go to disputeforme.com. So the four is spelled out FOR. So disputeforme.com. There's some information on there. They can book a call if they want to speak with somebody. So yeah, our website, disputeforme.com, is the best way to learn more about our outsourcing services.
Awesome. And one last time, the site where credit heroes can learn how to offer and monetize student loan relief services. That is
Studentloancompanion.com/course.
awesome. Well, thank you again, Bruce. Thanks for being so awesome. Congratulations on the Millionaires Club and all of your success. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Credit Repair Cloud. I really appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you.